You saw.
The smell as a connecting, as a way this child relates and feels comfortable. That smell is not smell. Yes, it is smell to me, but to that little boy, that little girl, it's a sense of I'm okay. It's the only one thing he can hold on and say, I can smell mama. I can smell where I come from. I can smell what is usual. Remember, what is in my house is abnormal, and that's the only normal smell this child has. And for me to wash it right away, it's taking away, it's basically saying everything about you is horrible. Everything you brought is hell is horrible in some way. And that's really adding on trauma to already traumatized child.
Welcome to Book Therapy. I'm your host, Kim Patton. There's no way to count how many books are floating around in this world. Some are decent, some are truly terrible, and some are great. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into one great book. Together, we will discover gems of truth and encouragement to help you as a foster and adoptive family raise kids from hard places. You're ready, I'm ready. Let's get this party started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Book Therapy. Today, we're wrapping up our interview with Peter. I hope you enjoyed the previous episode. That is part 1. If you haven't, go back and listen to it because this covers his first book, and today we are talking about his second book. Also, if you know Chip and Joanna Gaines, let me know because we're trying to get Peter on TV. He's been on TV, but he needs his own show. So if you happen to be neighbors with the famous Waco Gaines family, send me a quick email and I will be forever grateful. Okay, I hope you enjoy the show. We're going to move on to the second book, Love Does Not Conquer All, which is kind of a terrible title, Peter.
Right.
Peter, can we talk about
Absolutely.
that?
Yes. And the reason for me, the reason why I love the title is because as a foster parent, people meet me and say, I want to be a dad and I want to be a mom. I'm going to take on and love on them. And in my head, I'm like, it doesn't work that way. Like from the outsiders, they thinking, well, all I need is to love them. But realizing that actually for you to love them, you have to endure the hardship and all things they've gone through to watch that. And by you saying, I'm going to choose to be there for this child, no matter what, and learn the best way I can, that is loving, and I wanted to make it not light, but rather to say it takes more than love to love a child. As a post parent, I think my kids, sometimes, I see less of love, but in the midst of that, to know that I go to love them no matter what, that what's happening in their little mind isn't about me or has nothing to do with me, but for what they went through, I have to go through and provide a safe and loving space for them to heal along the way. That the love isn't enough, that I had to grow, I had to endure the pain, the struggles in the midst of that in order to truly show up and love them.
And be educated, like you said, to learn. Part of loving them is understanding trauma and what they've been through and why they are acting the way they are acting and why it is not about you. Because if you don't have the education, you think everything is a personal attack and you think, oh man, I must be a really terrible person. If this kid is calling me a terrible person, it's kind of hard not to believe them. But if you have the education and understand what physiologically their body is going through and their brain is going through, it helps you understand, okay, this is not against me personally. So the official title, Love Does Not Conquer All and Other Surprising Lessons I Learned as a Foster Dad to More Than 40 Kids. One of the first quotes that I noticed was just on page 26 right away. A child in distress does not want to stay in distress. You highlight the fact that they don't want to be miserable. They
Right.
don't want to throw tantrums. They are because they're struggling, but they don't want to stay there. And so you come alongside as a father and you help them through the hard moments. How do you deal with these challenging behaviors? You talk a lot about hoarding food. You talk about them fighting back, them struggling with school, getting called to the principal's office, you getting phone calls in the middle of the day, and you just want to park your vehicle at the school and be like, I might as well just sit here and take a nap because they're gonna need me in
About
an
to call
hour.
me. Right.
And food insecurity. You talk about dinner time and how you make this beautiful meal for them, vegetables, fruits, and, real food, rice and meat and protein. And they look at it like it is
It's
not food, not edible. Cheetos, bagged foods, macaroni and cheese, sugary drinks, candy, anything you can throw in a microwave is what these kids are used to eating. The
correct.
easiest, quickest, cheapest food, the most neon mac and cheese you've ever seen in your life that comes out looking like straight chemicals. This is their normal. So, talk to me about these kids transitioning from their normal, which to us is unhealthy, and they have a hard time making that transition. How do you help them make that transition?
Well, absolutely. So for me, I had to learn like my normal is their abnormal, and their normal is my abnormal. And by understanding that, that really helps me from the day one they arrive. So for remember, you come in your house, you have, awesome things, you have, China, things like, well, to me, that it's normal. To them, it's abnormal. My house smells so good, to them, something that doesn't smell like what my mom was is abnormal. The food, they eat junk food. To me, I see it as junk food, but to them, it's more than junk food. It's a reminder of my mom. It's a reminder of my being. It's the reminder of how I grew up. It's so much more than just the me seeing a junk food. So by understanding that, that gives me an opportunity on how to handle that with care and with dignity, without making it a big deal or without really turning it into a way that they might look at it as a negative. So for me, right, if they say they don't like the food I cook, well, it's not like they don't like it. They never had it before. So for them, a cooked meal doesn't seem real. But for me to meet in the middle, to say, hey, on lunchtime, we'll eat that, but dinner, can we also eat mine as well? So along the way, I am one, I want to be positive, but two, I really want to walk alongside with them. Like, let's negotiate here. Let's meet in the middle along the way. And that truly, truly helps. But also, it helps me when I do something good, but they see it as negative. It helps me to remove myself. I think as post parents, it's easy to put in yourself like everything they do, they hate you or they're against you or they don't like you. And I think for me, the first thing I had to do was to remove myself. The once I remove myself, I get to see what they're doing more on a different perspective. One, I get to see it with empathy, like, oh, I'm sorry no one hugged you. So no more hug for me, for you, it means much more than what it is now. So for me, to approach with empathy, it really helps me love my child as who they are rather than who I want them to be. And I get to meet them where they're at, right there. That my kid is not comfortable with a hug, my kid is not comfortable with that I got to provide and give them that space in order to truly, alongside, really show them what's normal. So that was for me the first thing that I had to learn what is identifying what's normal for me and then knowing that what that normal for me is not normal for my child and approach it the way they look at it in the other way too. What is normal for me is not normal for them, and so we are two odds somehow, but along the way that we gonna find a way to meet in the middle. By me being in that state, it really helps me to have empathy and a way to reach out to my children because I'm not approaching, how dare you? You're ungrateful, or, that's not a good behavior. No, to say, yes, it might seem a bad behavior to me, but to them, it's normal.
hmm If we're talking about safety and comfort and security, we would look at some of these homes that these children come from and say, well, that's not safe, that's not secure, that's not stable, that's not comfortable, that's not clean. But to them, like you said, it's connected to their mom, it's connected to their siblings. It's the only home they've ever known for some of these kids. And so, like having that security blanket, you talked about a story of a little kid who had a security blanket and they were holding it so tight and you knew you're like, I'm not going to be able to pry this from their hands. And as I was reading that, I was like, surely he's going to wash the blanket. I mean, right? Like that's going to happen. And then I keep reading and I'm like, he doesn't even wash the blanket. I was surprised. I really was because in our home, we work with another house parent couple. And part of the protocol is when they get things from their bio families if it's washable, then we wash it just in case, unless we have good intel that, it's clean. Because in many cases we do get things, and because we are in a residential group home setting and you have several kids too, if there's something on there that's going to be problematic for the whole home, we have to be careful with that. You really made me think about what's important in the moment. And if that child is connected to that security blanket, even though it is disgusting,
Right.
you saw.
The smell as a connecting, as a way this child relates and feels comfortable. That smell is not smell. Yeah, it is smell to me, but to that little boy, that little girl, it's a sense of I'm okay. It's the only one thing he can hold and say, I can smell mama. I can smell where I come from. I can smell what is usual. Remember, what is in my house is abnormal, and that's the only normal smell this child has. And for me to wash it right away, it's taking away, it's basically saying everything about you is horrible. Everything you brought is hell is horrible in some way. And that's really adding on trauma to already traumatized child.
Right. And that's very hard as a caretaker because we have things in such a black and white way.
Mhm.
Like, but of course it's dirty. Everybody knows it's dirty. And yet when you told that story, something clicked that I have to enter into their being for a moment. And as hard as it is to be a 5-year-old little boy that has just been taken away from their family and is clinging onto the security blanket that they sleep with every night, that's the place that I need to be for at least a minute to make a better choice as a caretaker. Because what's my job? My job is to keep the house clean, but
Right.
my job is also to connect with this child. You saw that security blanket as a really big deal, and you knew that if you made a clear message in the first hour of meeting this child that his most prized possession was unclean, it was going to send a message that none of your words could undo.
Absolutely. Yes. And even hoarding food, when my kids will hoard the food, I never made a big deal because to them, it's not a big deal. To me, it is a big deal. Like you're gonna die in my house, it's gonna smell. But for little girl, this little boy, little girl, all he's saying is like, I'm not sure there's food tomorrow, so I'm gonna keep some. To me, there's nothing wrong with that. But yet, for me, from the parent point of view, the caretaker, I'm thinking of smelling. Thinking of I mean, what's gonna crawl into my house? Absolutely. But to really go to the child's mind and say, but the what? Why? And for me, that really helped me learn my kids. That once I stay on the why rather than what they did, that it really helped me along the way to really help them. Why do they do what they do? And that really gives me empathy. I'll give you an example of one kid who came, and I think it's in my book. And he went to the bathroom and picked up number two and smeared in the entire bathroom. And at first, I mean, literally, I wanted to call the social worker and say, I cannot deal with this. It's so expensive. Like, how do you clean poop on the walls? Like, I can't do that. But before I could make that phone call, I was like, hold on. I would really like to know why he would do that. And sure enough, he said, I didn't want you to touch me, so I had to make myself dirty. I mean, you should have seen me just walked away and cried for a few moments. And to look at this 6-year-old and say, how did you get the knowledge, the power, the zeal to learn how to protect yourself? Like, how do you do that? So for me, I saw how smart he was. I saw how clever he found a way to protect himself. But the empathy to the poor kid who did this to him. So for me, the whole shift of going to I mean, culture worker, forget it. That was gone, because now I went to really the empathy mode and how I can be there for this kid than focus on the walls of my house. And I think that's really important to our foster parents, even biological parents, that when our kids do things, rather than react to that whatever they've done, but rather to ask ourselves, why? And why? And the family that took me in, maybe that's why I made it through life. They never really accused me, you know. This is an example. First time I stole something. I stole something and they did not punish me, but they gave me an extra of what I'd stolen. So,
Oh.
so I was really mad. I was like, I deserve to be punished, but they gave me what I saw. And for me, that was a really wake up moment to know, like, wait a minute. Every time I do bad, they see the best in me, and I never did that again because I realized that they always saw the best in me, even at my lowest. And I think that's what we ought to do to our kids during trauma time, to remove ourselves and see the best with them and see empathy. And we get to learn how to truly help them. And it's not a 1 month, it's not a 6 month, sometimes a few years down the road. But along the way, we get to be there for them. We get to help them see the world. What is normal for us, they get to see it as normal as much as we help them kind of jump that bridge to what normal is.
Mm-hmm. And it becomes their new normal with time.
Yes. I have a teenager, he came to me. So I said, hey, can you go do this? And he stood and looked at me. I said, hey, I asked you, could you go? And he just shook his head. So I said, why didn't you respond? He said, everyone who wants me to do something, they yell at me and say the bad word, the F word. Then I know, oh, I can go do that, And I just hugged him and said, that's not a language I would ever use towards you. And I think you're special, you're kind, and you're sweet. I don't have to yell at you in order to do something to me, or for me. And that's all it took. But for him, what normal was is yell at me, call me words, and then I'll go do it. And I'm the opposite. But it took me that moment to stop and say, oh, okay, And I think as foster parents or bio parents or adoptive parents, when we stop to ask why, I think it really helps our kids navigate that.
I get stuck there though sometimes. I say, "Why? Why are they doing this?" And then nobody tells me, and the Lord does not tell me, and I just have to, save it for the next day at my meeting with my supervisor and say, "They did this, and I have no idea why." But one thing that has been coming up lately is transition times are very difficult for children from hard places, and so sometimes they'll act out around the time of a transition. And finally, after a while of doing this, I'm like, okay, my supervisor mentioned, remember, this is a time of transition. And remember, they did this last time during this time of transition. And I'm like, oh, no wonder she's been okay for 5 days. And then all of a sudden, on the day of transition, she's calling me names and refusing to go to school and all this. And, you do want to take it personally, but in that moment, I can say, this is actually not about me. This is about her having a hard time with transition. And that leads us to our last point, which is about trust. You talk near the end of the book about how they act out because they trust us.
Right.
And, I kind of believe you, and I also kind of don't because I'm like, how does that work? And I like how you explained it, how on page 119, you say, but here's the truth. A child acting out at home is actually a sign that they trust you. It's an indication they feel safe enough to let their true self come out. That angelic child disappearing and becoming a heat seeking missile just looking for a reason to blow up at you is not a sign that you have done something wrong as a parent. Just the opposite. You have earned their trust. They feel safe with you and in your home. Now they can let out all the emotions and hurt and pain they've kept bottled up inside. Before, they were testing you. Their acting out is a sign that you have passed the test. You talk
Hmm.
earlier about how they're possibly upset at people who are not present. Let's
Right.
say they're bio parents or their social worker or DSS or God. They're upset, but we're here.
Right.
So we're looking at them in the face. So we're the ones that they project their anger at. Peter, I really have a hard time with taking things personally. Okay? So I need to pick your brain for a minute because
Right.
this is challenging for me because I do think they're acting out because something I'm doing. What? Can I just say it's not about me, or what do I take responsibility for, and how do I separate the what can I do better versus it's just their trauma speaking. It doesn't matter who's in front of their face, they're going to act that way toward anyone. I want to be a good house parent. I want to
Right.
be a good foster parent. I believe intrinsically that God has called me to do this. So obviously he thinks I can do it. So, okay. But I struggle with the self confidence. And I'm being very honest here with one of my biggest challenges as a house parent is I struggle with the self-confidence that I'm good enough to raise these teenage girls because a lot of times they don't seem to like me or understand my intent is to help them. And I get tangled up in their emotions and we just kind of turn into a tornado of, you know what I'm talking
Emotion,
about?
absolutely, yeah. Well, think about this way, like, do you know sometimes where people say your child or your kid is like the sweetest? You're like, what child are we talking about? Like, excuse me, what child are we talking about?
Yes,
You
yes.
know? All the neighbors, they're like, oh my God, this kid is the sweetest. Think about this way, like they're able to control all those emotions from these people they don't know. They're able to really put on their best. That shows you how smart, but also how they don't want to kind of really bring themselves out. That they're good even at 5. Like they're so good enough to say, "I'm with a stranger and I'm gonna act really good and stay away from all that." No, so that really gives you a clue to show that because they don't trust the other people, because they don't feel comfortable who they are, they would not do that. They will not be themselves. And for them to come to your home and kind of really go off, like it is the safest place for them in your little brain to say, I can melt down and they will not kick me out of this house, or they will love me, or they will feed me, while they cannot do on the other side because they will be kicked out or they'll be told off. So they've learned how to say, I'll keep those places, and that really shows how we are the safe place for them to be. Also, because they've lived with us for a long time, they've kind of really let the one word at a time. It's not like they put all the walls at, all the sum, but they let one out. Like one, they trust you that you come back, so that's gone. Two, they know they're gonna yell at you, but you still show up tomorrow. That's another one. So it's not like all the layers at one time, but they've been, how do I say, you know how you peel the onion? So they've been removing one at a time and one at a time. And finally, there's nothing left but to be themselves. So that is kind of how they really grow to lovers, but also to we being the punching bag in some way. Like they just let it go because they feel safe that they can do whatever there is to be. Because for a long time, they peeled off those layers. And now we have the true selves and who they are. And that really is a good thing on their part. But for me as a punching bag, yeah, that's the hard part. Like, oh dear Lord, how do I do this? How do I? For me, I have learned to just remove myself to know there's Peter and there's a parent. And when I'm a parent, I cannot be Peter. Like I have to remove myself. And I'm being honest, like sometimes when my kids are putting holes in my wall and I'm watching them and they are yelling, calling me every name you could think of. And in those moments to really look at them and say, that kid angry has nothing to do with me, you know? And also look at that way. Like I sometimes say, finally, my child is talking. Finally, my child is talking. So I get to see it as communication rather than, yes, it's coming in a whole different way. F that. But in some way for me to tune it and say, hey, someone is communicating in a way that I don't like, but hey, they're talking and I'm going to listen. And that has helped me to have a sense of peace, but also know that, okay, for now, I'm just gonna listen. And then the other part too, on me, it gives me tools on now how to approach. Like I cannot approach the way they go out past every time the same way. Like I have to change tactics on how. And for me, that really helps me to say what I used last time did work, and let me figure out what else I can do. Here's my take. I never trying to correct my kids or tell them any wisdom when they are mad. Like I just never, because I am talking to the lizard that has no clue what I'm saying. So I've tried to find a way on really how to calm them down and then be able to talk. So for us, ice cream works. Their favorite, I'm not kidding. Their favorite thing they like to do works.
Wow.
Yes. And that's kind of for me where the Lord has taught me that every time I put a finger towards him, he hasn't struck me, but he's loved me despite of that. And I need to use that same attitude towards my kid. That when my teenager is mad, I'm going to take him for ice cream. While we're having that ice cream, he's going to calm down. And as we drive back, I'm going to gently say, what happened? you know?
Wow.
Why? Because I'm talking to a little human being now, not a lizard before, And learning that has really helped me to know when to have a discussion rather than have a spiral of a tornado that isn't going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That they need to be in some space, somewhere where they can relate and understand me. And sometimes that ice cream is all they need for me to have that conversation.
Wow.
Remember, what is normal to treat it as abnormal. So to them, the screaming and the yelling at you is normal. But
Mm-hmm.
the abnormal for you is like, how do I not respond and figure out another way to really show them the opposite? How do I flip the coin? And sometimes it's stepping away and sometimes saying, I'm sorry for what happened. But we'll talk about it. Can we go for a walk?
So whenever they're flipping out and they go in their lizard brain and all of the metaphors that come with in the foster care world, they have every psychologist has a different metaphor for what's happening when their brain is offline. Um, Somehow that hasn't clicked with me. I'm going to be honest because like I'm a words person, so they're flinging words at me, and I'm like, I got to take those words because that's what they're feeling right now. But what you're saying is,
Remove yourself. See?
can I
Like,
just run away? Like, is that an
no,
option?
you stay and listen. And actually, I agree with you. Like, I hear you. Absolutely, I hear you. And I'm sorry. That's all. Nothing else. I agree with you. And I'm sorry. And I'm sorry that you're feeling that way. That is removing yourself and not being part of because the other thing too, just know like they want you to wind up. They want to put you in that position as
Mm-hmm.
well. So
Mm-hmm.
by you saying, not today, not today, no. I am going to be the parent this side. I'm going to listen to you and listen, you know? And that's it. And not take it personal. And then later you address it. Learn how they come down. Some kids come down an hour later, some come down 24 hours later. Know when to actually impact their lives. And
Mm-hmm.
to say, even if you're to say sorry, when you say sorry to a kid who's listened and calmed down, is it better that they will listen to it and hear you than a screaming child that has no idea what you're talking about? Again, for me, what has helped to me is to remove myself. That kid is yelling and call me F word has nothing to do with me. So I'm just gonna walk aside and just listen and listen.
Maybe we should get like that little poster board of our face and just hold it up and then like you're not really talking to me. You're talking to this piece of paper that has my picture on it because all of your anger is being spewed at something, and I just happen to be in the room. So, therefore, go ahead and yell at this, and
You're
I'll
the,
be back
not
when you're calm.
not you happen to be in the room. You're the safe person they can offload off.
Which makes a lot of sense because we treat people we love the most the worst on occasion because we know they're not going to leave us. I mean, my poor mom, my poor husband, my poor kids, everybody who has seen that ugly side of me, they
What?
know, oh yeah, Kim is like that in public, but you just listen when she's upset and it's a whole
Hmm.
different ballgame. So that's the same way with our kids is they need someone to yell at. They need someone to kind of um and honestly, if they're emotionally and developmentally younger than their chronological age, which most of them are,
Fine.
they don't even know what they're feeling and they don't even know how to process it. So they're spewing things because that's just what's happening in their body and they'll process it later. But for me to remain calm during that is a challenge because I don't have that separation. And so I'm going to test it out, Peter. I'm going to test out your theory and I'm going to see if I can in the moment separate myself and kind
Right.
of understand where they're coming from.
Write it on a piece of paper. And when that's happening, hold that paper and you're towards you. Like you're looking at like, it's not about Kim. It's not about Kim. Like you're looking at it, but at the same time, reciting those words on it's not about Kim. And that will I don't know if it might help, but it might really help to really look at that piece of paper while they're yelling at you. And the other part too, like I am the trigger. Like, like There's some things I'm gonna say and do that gonna trigger them. So to even know that I am that part of their lives as well,
Hmm.
that they will not have yelled until I turn off the internet and hell come down. I
How
triggered
dare
out.
you?
I triggered the whole thing for sure. So to even know that, hey, I'm part of their lives, and somehow for what caused them to go off, I'm part of it. So I'm gonna own it at some point in a good parental way. But for now, I'm gonna let you just go off and
Whew.
go off. And
Oh gosh. Okay, fine. I have my
yeah,
homework.
my son did that. Then I said, "Hey," he said, "You're the worst dad ever." I said, "Do you want another father?" He's like, "That's not what I meant." I was like, "Well, that's what I heard."
Oh man. Okay. Well, there's so much else. There's so much else, but I'm just going to end with this. You say on page 204, there's one little detail about my own story I did not include in my first book. Perhaps I should have shared this detail in the opening chapter of this book, but I thought it best to save it for now if I actually wanted people to read it. What kind of father admits before I had children, I avoided kids as much as possible? And then you go into detail about all of the places you avoided kids. And the last paragraph, you say, but I am not that child avoiding guy any longer. I am a dad. I shared this dark secret about myself to let you know that if someone like me can be an effective parent, so can you. No matter where you are in your parenting journey, there is hope. I was really encouraged by this last page because you say that me doing my best is enough, and we give them the love that we receive from God. And you say, don't give up, hang in there. You are the one God has chosen to parent your children. He knows you're up to it. I believe that, but I appreciate you telling me that because there have been so many days where I'm so incredibly discouraged. My husband and I are just numb with exhaustion. We're like, how, why, where, when, what? Like we're just, our whole lives are upside down. But hearing you say that is really, it's a gift because I know that you understand. I've read 400 pages of you explaining to me how much you understand what I'm going through as a foster and adoptive mom. And you still say you believe in me. And I appreciate that because there's a lot of days that I don't believe in myself. And like I told you and admitted that self-confidence as a foster parent, as an adoptive mom is really a struggle for me. And I constantly have to reframe my identity based on what God says that I am. And if
Right,
He has called me to do this, then He believes I can do it.
right,
So I have to keep coming back to that because He could kick me out. Yeah, He could
right,
fire me. He
right,
probably should, but He hasn't so far.
right.
So as we wrap this up, I just want to say thank you. And I appreciate your words. I appreciate your story and your vulnerability and your funny videos. And I would love to meet you in person someday. I'll figure it out. I will ask your assistant for your calendar. But, you know, just the fact that you're doing the work and you're available to other foster parents like me, I really appreciate what you're doing.
Absolutely. I would love that. Maybe one day I could do a room makeover for your teenagers. Who knows?
Ah, yay!
Right. Hang in there. Otherwise, if you want the right person, they will not have given you the license. If you know the right person, they will not have given you the trust to have those kids. It's hard to when you're on the mat to see that. But I will tell you, for me who was a 19 and 21-year-old, wow, like wait, you thought about that? When they were 16, wow, the impact I made then that I could not see when they were 18, but I get to see it when they are 21. Like, yeah, you're the best dad I ever knew. You're like, you could have told me that a long time ago.
Okay, so where can people find you? What is your biggest thing going on right now that you want to tell everyone about, and what's coming up next for you?
Oh, yes, I'm writing children's books, which is exciting.
Yay!
I can't wait, absolutely. Well, you can find me, Foster Dad Flipper, on any social media, YouTube, TikTok, name it all, or you can go on our website, nowimnot.org, to buy a book or to see a story. And that's really what I'm really excited about. My next mission is to make 100 room makeovers for teenagers and foster parents. So that is my prayer that one day I'd like to do that. Maybe, I don't know, make into a TV series where people can hear the kids' stories in a way that is really uplifting but joyful as well.
Yes, you should call Chip and Joanna.
Yes, please give me his number.
Um,
Her number.
it's a Waco area code.
Somewhere
No,
in
really,
Texas.
we gotta have someone who's connected to them.
Tell me about it.
I mean,
Yeah, I'll send you. We are creating an episode, so I'll send you an episode so you can watch and tell me what you think.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's a great idea. And don't they have their own TV network?
Yes, they do.
Peter,
Yep.
just talk to God about it.
I have been. I have been. I have been.
Okay, so maybe God is the connecting person between you and Chip and Joanna. I don't know. I'll pray for that too, that you will make a connection and be able to, because you would be a great and you already have a name, Foster Dad Flipper. Come on.
Well, it's for me, it's a way to advocate for children. When we want to tell their story, people are like, yeah, foster care, no. But I wanted to transform their bedroom, but in the midst of that, show their story, like hear their stories of where they come from and how better we can be there for them. Does it make sense? Like
Hmm.
uplifting, but at the same time showing that transformation. And that's the same that we want for our kids. See the transformation of a bad bedroom to make it into the most coolest bedroom. But so are their hearts. Just because they are teenagers, they are not. They're amazing kids. We
Hmm.
cannot give up on them, but we can show up and transform their lives as well. And that is my whole mission, to do that for kids in foster care.
Very cool. Well, I hear your excitement, your passion, and so I'll be praying that God kind of fulfills some dream of yours, whether it's that or something else. But we need people like you that are helping these kids find foster homes and feel safe. Thank you, Peter. Thank you so, so much for coming on my show.
What a blessing to have you, Kim. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Book Therapy. For all the details about the author, the book, and what we talked about today, please see the show notes. As always, if you enjoy this podcast, please leave us an honest review on Spotify or Apple. This helps get the word out. And even better, if you know of a foster adoptive family and you think this episode will encourage them, go ahead and send them a text, because not only will it brighten their day, but it will give them another resource, another tool as they are doing the hard work of loving and serving vulnerable children. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We will see you next time.